Hey everyone, welcome to day 5 of our front-end masterclass. I hope you had fun yesterday adding colors and typography to your websites. Yesterday, we learned CSS basics, how to include CSS in your HTML, linking them together, how to work with selectors, add colors, and style typography. Your plain HTML pages should now look much more professional and visually appealing. Today we are diving into one of the most important concepts in CSS, which is the box model. This is fundamental to understanding how spacing and layout work on the web. Once you master the box model, you will be able to control exactly how elements are positioned and spaced on your pages. We are also going to learn about different display types and positioning, which are the building blocks of web layout. So today's focus areas are 1. The CSS box model, understanding how elements take up space. 2. Margin, padding, and border properties, the spacing properties. CSS units. 3. 4. Display properties, block, inline, and inline block. 5. The basic positioning techniques. By the end of today's class, you will have complete control over spacing and basic layout in your designs. So without wasting much time, let's get started. The box model is the foundation of CSS layout. Every element on a web page is essentially a rectangular box, and understanding how that box works is crucial. Every element has 4 areas. The first one is the content, which is the actual content of the element. The second one is the padding, which is the space between content and border. The third one is the border itself, the border around the element. And the fourth one is the margin, space outside the border between this element and others. Okay, think of it like a picture frame. The content is like the picture itself, while the padding is the matting around the picture. The border is the frame, right? And the margin is the space between this frame and other frames on the wall. So let me show you a real world example here, right? Let's jump right into VS Code and do that. So let's say we have this element with a class of cat, right? And it has a paragraph inside it which reads, this is a cat, right? Or let me just say box model, right? Let me increase the brightness of the system a bit, and also let me zoom it in the browser for you to see what you are doing, right? Oh, I think this one is so much bigger. Okay, so let's say we have this cat here with a class of, we have this div with a class of cat, right? Let's select it in our CSS file, right? I hope you didn't forget how to do that. I hope you mastered the syntax, how CSS syntax looks like, right? So let's give it a width of 300 pixels first. And actually, let me add comments to explain what each and every property and value does. So this is the content width, right? This is the content width. And let's give it a padding of 20 pixels. Padding of 20 pixels, right? And the padding is the space inside, right? And also let's give it a border of 2 pixels solid and some gray color, right? Let's also give it a margin of 10 pixels. right? 10 pixels, so 10 pixels space outside of this element of this card kernel. Okay, can you guess why it's still not applying on our page so far? Oh, that's because we haven't linked our CSS yet. Let's do that right away. Have you seen this shortcut I just typed? Just type the link like that, and then can you see that? And still nothing is working because my CSS file is named styles, not style. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, actually let me show it to you in the developer tools. This is something you haven't learned before, but for now let me just show it to you. Okay, so this is our border area, right? This is the border. This is the margin, sorry, the space outside, as I've told you, which is 10 pixels, right? And our padding and our border, which is 2 pixels. Can you see that? This is the margin, this is the border, and this is the padding, the space inside, as I've told you, and this is the content itself, which is 300 pixels. Can you see that? This is the perfect explanation of how the CSS box model works, because it's right there. This is the space outside, which is the space between it and other elements, which is 10 pixels. If we are to add another card below, let's say we have another card below and it has these weird things. As you can see, there is 10 pixel space between them. Okay, I hope that explains that. Okay, the total space this element takes up, as you can see, the width, the content is 300 pixels, right? And the padding left and right, and then as you can see, then the border and then the margin. It's explained perfectly here, as you can see, right? I hope you can see it well. So let's move to this thing, box sizing. We have this property called box sizing. By default, width and height only apply to the content, as you can see, but you can change this. The default behavior is like this. Okay, box sizing. This is how the property look like. The default behavior is content box, right? But you can change this to border box. Okay, I recommend using box sizing border box for easier calculations. There is a way. Actually, you don't need to add box sizing border box to all your elements. All you can do is add it to this universal selector. So this is called universal selector, the star. You just add star and then put whatever you like inside. It will apply to every element on that page. Okay, this applies border box to all elements on your page. Actually, let's understand margins and paddings in detail. You can set margins and paddings individually if you like. So actually, let me off this, or let's use another example like I've done before. Let me add another card below. Okay, let's say box model 2, right? Can you see that? Okay, so Now let's select it. What do we give it? It has a class of cat2, right? Actually, let me improve this for readability, right? Cat2. So it's not necessary for you to do that. Okay. So let's say, like I've told you, we can add the margins or the paddings individually. So like the top, right, bottom, and left, we'll add them individually like this. Let's say margin of 10 pixels, right? Actually, let me select that element. So far as you can see, the margin for both the four sides is 10, right? But you can be able to change that margin top 10 pixels, right? And as you can see in our browser, it's only margin top that is being set. The other sides, there is no spacing between them and the other elements, right? Can you see that? We also have margin right. Let's set it to 10 pixels too. Or let me just say 5 pixels. Okay. And then margin bottom. Then let's give it 10 pixels. And then margin left 5 pixels. Okay, can you see that? So now our top and bottom have 10 pixels each of margin, and our left and right have 5 pixels each. So there is a better way of doing this actually. Okay, this is the first method, right? And then there is the second method like this. So actually, let me just write it this way: top, right, bottom, and then left. So this is how they are in order. So let's do that. Margin, right? This is the shorthand property. So we want the top should be 10 pixels, right? We want the right to be 5 pixels. And then we don't need to add commas there. And then the bottom should be also be 10 pixels, right? And the left should be 5 pixels. So this is how it works actually. Can you see that? It's already there. But there is also this way that you could do. You'll just say, and the way this works is like this actually. The first one is top and bottom, and then the second one is, I'm just doing this for demonstration. You don't need to add comma, okay? And then the second one is left and right. Okay, so let's do that too. Margin. Actually, let me comment this one out. Margin 10 pixels top and bottom, and then 5 pixels left and right. Okay, you see it does the same thing. So I'm leaving all of this here for, I'm leaving them for you to see actually for reference purposes. Okay, the same thing applies to padding too. So there is padding top. What do I want to give it? And actually, let me give this to 15 pixels. Okay, here let's say I want it to be 10 pixels, right? Padding top, and the right should be padding right should be 15 pixels, and then padding left, padding bottom, the shortcut p bottom 10 pixels, and then p left 15 pixels. Okay, can you see that top and bottom have 10 pixels each, while left and right have 15 pixels each of padding? Can you see that? We haven't set the border yet. We are yet to set the border, right? Now let's actually let's say this card here. Okay, this card here, let's give it a background color of slate blue, right? And now this one too, it has its own shortcuts. So sorry, the padding, it also goes like this. Top, right, bottom, left in order, right? This is the order of how they appear, right? So we also have this padding, top and bottom, left and right. Okay, so the way this works is, let's say padding top and bottom 10 pixels, and then left and right 15 pixels. See, it does the same thing again. Let me comment it out again and show you this one. This one is more flexible because you will even add different sizes to each side. So the top should be 10 pixels, right should be 15 pixels, bottom should be 10 pixels, and the left should be 15 pixels. Okay, it does the same thing, right? And if the value is all the same, you could just add, let's say, margin of 15 pixels, and it will apply 15 pixels of margin to all sides. This is how it works. As you can see here, the margin is 15 all sides, right? And we haven't set the border yet. Now let's talk about the border. And the border too, if let's say we have 10 pixels red, right? And the way border works is it have three properties: the border width, and the border style, and then this thing. Actually, you can add the border top, border left, border right, border bottom elements too, right? Let's say border 10 pixels solid red. Okay, can you see that it added 10 pixels of border? Okay, actually let me leave this padding of 10 pixels for you to see. Okay, or let's say 15. All right, so we have this shortcut that we could use. Okay, the border also have this. You can add the border top, let's say 10 pixels, and then solid red, right? Can you see? Okay, can you see that it added border of 10 pixels to the top, right? As you can see, we have a border of 10 pixels top, right? You can also add border right 10, let's say 5 pixels solid red. And this solid, as I've told you, it has three properties, which is first one, the border width, and then the style, and then the column, right? Border column. This is the three properties that each border property carry, right? Actually, let me say blue. Can you see that? Let's say border bottom 10 pixels red. Okay, and then border, we have border left 5 pixels solid red. Okay, sorry, I didn't add the border style. Can you see that? So this is blue, right? So we also have this. It doesn't have to be solid. It can also be, let's say, dotted, right? Can you see that? And let's make this one to be dashed. Okay, there you go. You can also say border 10 pixels and then 15 pixels solid. Let's say green. Don't worry about the colors, I'm just trying to explain things to you. Let's try this out and see whether it works. Oh, it doesn't work like that. I've tried some rubbish. Okay, so as you can see, the shortcut is actually to use this one, border, let's say 2 pixels solid. You also have group, sorry I didn't show you. Also have, okay, I added two styles on the same property, group red. Actually, let me increase the size for you. Okay, there you go. We also have the styles. Let me actually use the styles for you. We have solid, we have dashed, dotted, we have double, groove, rich, insert, outside, none. But the ones that I didn't cover, they are not used actually. Okay, now let's talk about CSS units. Choosing the right measurement units, right? CSS has many units for measurements. Choosing the right one is important for responsive design, as you know. So the first one we are going to cover is the pixels. Okay. Okay. So the first one we are going to cover is the pixels. Pixels is mostly used for fixed size. Pixels is good for precision, right? Let's say we have this button here. So far we are just using pixels, right? But pixels is not good for responsive design. Let's say we have this button, the type of button, right? Type of button. Let's say click me. Okay. Let's go to our CSS and select it. Okay. Can you see that? Okay, so let's try and use pixels on this button. I'll show you something. So the way pixels work is that, okay guys, let me locate our button. Okay, so this is our button here, right? Let me give it a width of, let's say, 50 pixels, right? 50 pixels. Okay, this is not enough. Let me give it a width of 200 pixels. Actually, let me close my developer tools for now. So this is our button, right? Let me give it a height of 40 pixels too. Height of 40 pixels. Okay, can you see that? Let's give it a border of 1 pixel solid blue. I hope you have mastered these border properties. The first one is for, so let me write it down for you guys. So like this. The first one is the width, and the second one is the style, and then the last one is the color. Okay, so this is the format for creating it. So this is our button here, right? It has a border of 1 pixel and a style of solid and then blue color. So I may decide to add, let's say, 5 pixels. Can you see that? As I've told you, everything is a box to CSS. As you can see, it has a border of actually 4 point something. This is approximately, right? And it didn't have a margin so far. And the content is 178 pixels. It didn't reach the 200 pixels, right? So this is how it works. And the second one, we have relative units. And the use case for pixels is you use it for borders, small precise measurements when you need exact control, right? We also have relative units. The first one is EM, which is relative to parents elements font size. So let's say our, okay guys, let me explain how M units work. So let's give this a padding, right? Or actually, let's say, uh, actually, let me add it here. Okay, let's give this a padding of 1.5 m. This is our cartoon, right? We give it a padding of 1.5 m. Can you see that? And let's come here and style our root. Let's say padding is 16 pixels. Okay, and when padding is 16 pixels, it's not like that actually. Sorry, let's say font size. Let's try this with font size. So the way this works is, okay, so right now let me explain how M units work. Okay, so M units, they are relative to parent elements font size. And the way this works is, let's say, actually let me use this example. Let's say this card, our second card here, it has a font size of, let's say, font size of 16 pixels, right? That's a font size of 16 pixels. And now let's say we want to style the paragraph inside of it. Okay, so the paragraph inside of that one is with cat2, right? Cat2 and then paragraph. So let's say font size 1M. You see, it's the same thing, right? Can you see that? Well, actually, let me say 2M. It's twice bigger than the 16 pixels. Now, like this, so actually, let me leave it at 1M. Okay, and let me increase the font size inside of the inside of our cat2. Let's say 32. Can you see that? So now our 1M, as I've told you, is relative to the parent element's font size. So you see our 1M here is it's like 32 pixels, right? And the 2M will be about 64 or something like that. Let me reduce it and you could see. Okay, can you see that? So it's now 32 pixels, right? It's double the parent element's font size. So this is how M units work in CSS. So we also have rem units, which is relative to the root element's font size. And the root element is the HTML, right? So up here. So here we have 16 pixels, right? And this our first cut. Let's say, and let's style the paragraph inside of it. Dot cut and then P, right? Let's give it a font size of 1 rem. See, nothing changes, right? Let me increase the font size in the root element and you can see the magic. Okay, can you see that? Hope you understand it. Let me put it inside here and you can see there is nothing happens, right? So it's relative to the root element, not parent element. So this is the difference. This is the difference between element and EM and rem units. Rem is more predictable than M for spacing. Okay, and we also have percentages, which is relative to the parent container. So actually, let me inspect this. This our first card here, it has a width of 300 pixels, right? So let's say uh, we have another box inside of it. Okay, actually let me use the paragraph there. Okay, let's give it a background color of red. Okay, can you see that? And then let's say the width should be 50%. Okay, can you see that? And the reason why it doesn't fill up the remaining space in the left side is because of the padding. We have given it this padding of 20 pixels, right? Let me delete it and you will see the magic. Okay, there we go. So this is how it works. This is the padding. This is the padding. The content, the space inside the card, right? Let me delete it and you will see. Now it take up the 50% of that space, right? Let me give it 100%. Can you see that? This is how it works. Okay, let me return back my padding of 20 pixels. As you can see, it gives a padding of 20 pixels in all the 4 areas, right? So this calculates exactly, and then it appeared there. So this is how it works. We also have viewport units. Okay, let me show you viewport units. They are something like this. We have VW, which stands for viewport width. One viewport width is 1% of viewport width. And the viewport height, which is VH. One view height is 1% of viewport height. Actually, let me show that to you. Let me not gonna comment them out, but let's say this card here, our card 2, right? It doesn't have width element, right? It doesn't have width property. So let's give it a width of, let's say, 100 viewport width. Can you see that? Can you see what happened here? And guess what? Why it didn't fill up the space in the left side? Can you guess that? Because it has some padding, right? You can see the padding, which is 1.5 m, and also this margin. So let me comment out the margin. Okay, it's the margin actually. It's the margin that is preventing it from taking up the whole viewport width. So let's turn it back. So this is how it works. We also have viewport height. Let me show it to you. One view VH, right? Let's say 100 VH. And now it will take up the whole viewport height. Let me show it to you. This is the viewport height, right? Can you see that? It takes up the whole view of viewport height like this. It takes up the space. So this is how it works. This is how viewport units work. Okay. And where to use each unit? You can use pixels for borders, small precise elements, icons, etc. You can use rem units for font sizes, consistent spacing throughout the site. You can use the M units for spacing relative to text size, component based sizing, etc. Also like percentages for flexible width, responsive containers, etc. And the viewport units, which is viewport width and viewport height. This is for full screen elements like hero sections too. And the best practice, you use rem units for font size. You also use line height and things like that. Okay. So now let's jump into display properties. Okay. Actually, let me comment this out. Or let me just give it 50 view height. Okay. You also have display properties. The display property controls how elements behave in the layout. This is fundamental to understanding web layout. And the first display property value you look is the block element. Is the block value. And block elements take up the full width available and stack vertically. Okay. So this is if you could remember in our HTML lessons, I told you about the difference between span and div, right? So now let's look at it in action. Let's say we have this. So let me comment those out. For now, we don't need them. Okay. Let's say we have a div dot container, right? This container. Okay. And let's say this is a container. It's a div container. It's a div container, right? And then actually there is something I need to change here. Font size, let me return it to 16 pixels, which is the default, right? So we also have our span here. This is a span text, right? So let's take our first div here, which has the class of container, right? And give it a background color of dark gray. Okay, can you see that it takes up the whole space available, right? And actually, let me color them. Let me color the text to some gray color, some light gray color, right? Let's style our span here. Give it a background of uh, say background color. Let me give it this echo. Okay, can you see that? So block elements, like I've told you, take up the full width available and stack vertically, right? So you can also turn an inline element. There are inline and block level elements, right? So a span are inline level element. It's an inline level element, and div is a block level element. I'll give you example of such elements for each, but now let's focus on these two. Actually, you can turn this one to online too. Inline, sorry. Let's say let's set the display property to inline. Okay, can you see that? It is now an inline element too. And you can also turn an inline element to a block level element. Okay, can you see that? So this is the power of CSS. You have full control over how every element looks and behaves in your web page. Okay, and the common block elements are, let me write them for you here. Okay, common block elements are, sorry, we have div, we have h1 to h6, which are all of the headings, they are block level elements. Okay, and also the p are also section element, header and footer. Okay, and also their characteristics is they start on a new line always. They take up the full width available. You can set width and height. You can add margins and paddings on all sides. So inline elements, on the other hand, only takes up as much space as their content and flow with text needs. Right? As we can see, this div here. Actually, let me delete the styles. Let's get back to the normal behavior. So you can see the first div here is a block level element and it take up the whole space, not just the space that its content needs. While this span text here, this span element takes up as much space as its content needs. Now if to say we have this, let's say 150, it will still not take up any space. It just want to accommodate its content. That's all. Okay. So this is the difference between an inline level and block level elements. And common inline level elements are, let me list them for you too. They are common inline elements are, first one is the span, and then link, strong, there is an m element too, image. These are all inline level elements, okay? And their characteristics are they flow with surrounding text. They only take up space of their content. You cannot set width or height of those elements. And vertical margins, in order to set elements, you need to combine both, which is inline block. We will talk about that. You cannot set width or height of an inline level element. And vertical margins and paddings don't affect layout. So those are the characteristics of inline level elements. Okay. While inline block elements combines benefits of both. Okay. It could flow horizontally like inline elements. You can set width, height, and all margins padding like block elements. It's great for navigation buttons, cards in rows, etc. Okay, let me show it to you actually. So let's say, actually let's give this one here. Let me copy it down, and let's say display. Instead of block, we give it inline block, right? So as you can see, it's still an inline element, but I can take advantage and set the height and width. Okay, let's say 30 pixels. that's too small actually. Let's say 30 m, 10 m, sorry. Okay, can you see that? Can also set the height. Let's say 2 m. Okay, I hope you remember this property, text align. Look, there's something about CSS is that you need to practice in order to remember those properties. Okay, you need to practice them. You need to practice, and gradually you will remember them one by one when you come to work with each one of them. Okay, so actually let me comment this one out. Okay, and try adding those properties to this one. Can you see that nothing happened? Okay, because they are inline level elements. Okay, and also the height to 3m. Nothing happened, right? But this one here, this block level element, you can set the width and the height, right? And the height should be 3m. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's try out something. Let's try creating a horizontal navigation using the display properties that we have learned so far. I hope you can be able to do it so far, right? Let me go and create the CSS first. So let me comment those out. We're done with them too. After commenting them, let me write the HTML for them. Okay, let's say we have this nav here with UL and then li, which is a dead link. Let's duplicate it into 3, right? Contact. Okay, Can you see that? So right now, let's say we want to create a horizontal navigation, right? So let's say, let's start the styling. Let's say nav. Let's style the UL elements first. Set the display to inline block. Okay. Look, there are better ways to doing this, but for now, let me try showing you with this, with the ones we have learned so far. And in the later lessons, we will learn how to do it using Flexbox. Okay. This is my favorite way of doing it, which is Flexbox. We will come to that. Okay, now let's say this inline block makes list items set side by side, right? With a margin of right pixel, margin right of 20 pixels. Okay, so there is nothing happened so far, right? Okay, sorry. This style is for the li itself actually. Okay, so for the ul we need to remove the list style, right? Make it none. Okay, and then remove any margin and padding behind it. Okay, so now if I remove this margin right like this, they will combine like this without any style, right? Nav ul li a. Okay, we can simply just say if if the navigation links, they are the only links inside your nav element, then you could just target all of them like this. Let's say display them to block. Okay, give it padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 15 pixels left and right. Give the background color of gray. And the color should be white, right? Let's remove the text decoration. I forgot about that in a second. Text decoration, no. I want you to be practicing your CSS, not just go beyond the assignments that I'm giving you. You need to practice some more. Okay. Okay, can you see that? We have created a nice navigational menu. Now give the let me give our nav element here. Let me give our navigation a background. Let's say uh, DDE 1E7. Okay, this is too light. This is bad actually. Let me remove the background color. We don't need it. Okay, can you see that? Now it looks something professional, right? So this is how it works actually. So now let's create a card layout. Okay, actually we have some images here, right, for the users, right? Let me use them and create some kind of a card here for you guys to see. So let's say dot card layout. Okay, let me actually insert some image inside of it. which let me use the user one. Okay, so the way we do this is like this, right? So we go two steps out of our folder and then image, then user one, right? Okay, can you see that? So the image is there, right? Now let's say we have another div inside of this div for details. Okay, we have h3 for his name. Let's say Jonathan Smith. Okay, also have p element here which says, let's say, product manager. Okay, product manager. We also have this button below. Let's say contact, right? That's actually weird because there are some styles that we get for button up there. Actually, let me comment that out. Okay, so let's say contact me, right? So let's style this card here. The card selector is, we give it a class of card layout, right? We select it like this. Let me give it some border for us to see where it is first. Okay, can you see that it's a div element? It takes up the whole space, whole width, right? So let me give it a width of 350 pixels. That's too much. Let's say 250. That's also too much because if not, we are gonna stretch the image, and that's not good. Okay, I think this one will do. We are gonna stretch the image, but still it's pretty good, right? And you can add the class on an image too, right? It's not just for some elements, you can add it on images too. Let's say user. Okay, and let's say that user. Okay, can you see that? And let's control the height. Let's say 10. Let's say object fit cover. Okay. The way we stretch it, it has lost quality, but we are doing this just for demonstration, right? Let me center it. Let me center this card actually. I think margin 0 auto will do. Oh, that's correct. So I don't want margin 0 for the top and bottom. I need like, let's say, actually let me use, I need margin top to be 10 em. Margin top should be 5 em actually. Okay, so can you see that? But I don't want to give 5 em margin in the bottom too. So let's say auto and then 0. Okay, there you go. Now we have our card centered, right? So let's try to style the stuff inside, the details. Okay. Let me start with the name. It has the details, which is the container for the parent element of the Jonathan Smith, right? The name. And then we select H3. Actually, let me define the default font family here. Let me give it Poppins. Uh, that doesn't look great for this. Let's see. Okay, some will do. Okay. Uh, yeah, I think that's all, right? But let me give this to some kind of, because I want to know what we're doing, right? So let me give it a border of 1 pixel solid red. I want to know its size. Okay, there we go. So let's say we want the name here to have a padding of 10 pixels. Okay, and then details. The details. Do not forget the period, or else nothing is gonna happen. Let me reduce the opacity of this. Let's say 50%. Okay, can you see that? And let me change the font style to italic. Also, let's say let me change the font size to 15 pixels. That's too big, safe. Okay, can you see that our card layout is starting to look something real? Okay, let me style the button which has this class of contact, right? So our contact should be what style am I gonna give it? Let me give it some padding. Let's say padding of 7 pixels top and bottom, and 15 pixels left and right. Okay, actually I'm just gonna fill it. Hey, that's not what I mean. Okay, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. Actually, let's leave it the way I started. Okay, because I'm just doing this for demonstration. I don't want to enter debugging sessions. Yes, sometimes CSS can be pretty hard. Okay, let me change the font. Let me change the color of the text to be gray because it's too black. Okay, there you go. Now let me remove those borders. Okay. Mm, yeah. Now let me add some box shadow. Okay, 3 pixels, 5 pixels. Okay, so 3 pixels too, and 5 pixels, then minus 3, minus 3, 5 pixels of what actually? At CCC 2. Okay. Let me give it some border radius too. Border radius of 7 pixels. This doesn't seem to appear much, right? Let me give our button to border radius of 7 pixels. Okay, can you see that? And its border should be 1 pixel actually. Now let me add some hover effect on it. Let's say dot contact hover. When a user hovers it, then it should become background of black and then color of white. Okay, there we go. And you can also add some transition here for smooth, for it to go smoothly. You're gonna learn all of this, but for now I'm just showing it to you. Can you see that? Let me remove the transition. You will see the difference. You see it just pops in and out like nothing happened, but with the transition it moves smoothly. There's a lot of properties I want to show you, but I'll not cover all of the CSS in one video, so we'll be doing one step at a time. Okay, so let's focus on this for now. Now you can see on the top the border radius is not there, but for the bottom it's there, right? And that's because of our image actually. Our image has this, right? Let's say border radius of 7 pixels. Okay, it's border that I just added, right? Border radius of 7 pixels. Okay, there we go. Now we have our profile cut, right? Jonathan Smith, sorry, product manager, and there is his contact button. Now you can also turn a link into a button actually, right? But we're not gonna do that here because I just did this for demonstration. Okay, like I've told you, everything in CSS is treated as a box. So let me show you an example of that. This is Jonathan Smith, right? Can you see the properties of Jonathan Smith here? This is its properties, right? Jonathan Smith RH3. This is the default properties, right? You can see font size 1.17, margin, block start, blah blah blah. It also inherited some styles here, font family of Lato, and this margin, right? And it inherited a lot of things. You can see it override our root element, right? A root font size. So this is the computed values for this h3, and this is for our product manager. You can see the margin, padding, the content, right? And this is for our button, and this is for the whole div here, right? Can you see that? 200 pixels, margin of 80 pixels. What was that margin that we have given? 5M, right? And I've given the left and right to be auto, and it calculated the space between the left and right to the center, which is 114 pixels each. So this is how it works. So now let's talk about positioning. We're going to talk about basic positioning. Okay, we have this position property too after display. CSS positioning controls where elements appear on the page. We have static positioning, which is the default one. Okay, let me show it to you. Actually, let me close the DevTools. Let's say this our contact button here. Let's give it a position of static. Okay, as you can see, nothing happened, right? This is the default behavior, normal document flow. In static behavior, in position static behavior, elements appear in the order they are written in HTML. We also have relative positioning, which is positioned relative to its normal position, right? The original space is still reserved. Other elements don't have to move to fill it, right? Let me show it to you. Let's apply it. Actually, this is mostly applied on the container of the elements, right? Relative. As you can see, we have plenty of options here. Absolute, fixed, relative, sticky, static. We are gonna cover them in a minute. Okay, let's say relative. See, nothing happened. Okay, but when you started working with position absolute of its children, that's where the magic begins. An absolute positioning is they are positioned relative to the nearest positioned parent element. You might wonder what I mean, but let me comment the position relative here and try saying position absolute on this image, and you could see something for yourself. Okay, it moved out of the this thing, actually out of our what do I say, out of our cart, right? Can you see that? So now let's say we have our position relative here. Can you see that it will still be positioned, but it will start from the top of this thing. It will start from the top of our cart layout. This is how it works. Okay, actually let me use this on the details on the h3, right? Let me remove the position relative. Can you see that they are now stacked on top of each other, which is not good. Okay, there is gonna be a short tutorial video which I will do on just positioning. Okay, I'm gonna explain all of them. Okay, if you don't understand, do not worry. Okay, so let me return everything back to normal for now. Let's say we also have fixed positioning. They have positioned relative to the viewport, which is the browser window. Okay, this our navigation up here. Let's say we give it a position of fixed. Where is it? Okay, let's say position of fixed, right? Can you see where it is right now? Let's set the top to 0 and then width of 100%. Now it will never move no matter how you scroll. Okay, let me actually show it to you. No matter what you did, it stays there. Let's say we have some let's say we have some text below. Okay, can you see that it stays on top? It will never move before because it's fixed there. right? So this is how fixed positioning works. Okay, we have covered a lot of elements today. I wonder if you might even be able to understand, grab them all, because maybe you need to download the videos, okay? The tutorial videos, you need to download them in high quality and keep on watching them, right? For you to understand. We also have sticky positioning, but we're not gonna cover that because the video is too long actually. Well, let me tell you about this. There is this property called z-index, which controls the stacking order of positioned elements, right? Now let's say this one right here. Let's give it a z-index. The default as one is 1, okay? Let's give it -1 and you will see what happens. Oh, sorry. Let's say -4. It's still there. Why am I gonna do this actually? Actually, let me try with the links there. Maybe it's gonna work there. It's the stacking context. What's our navigational links? Okay, here. Let's set the z-index to -1. Nothing happened again. Nothing happened again. This is CSS for you. But we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna do a tutorial video as I've told you, because positioning is a big topic that needs a single video for itself. As I'm telling you, the video is too long and I'm really exhausted. Okay, so that's all for today, I think. Okay, great job today. You have learned the box model, which is one of the most important concepts in CSS. This is your biggest takeaway in today's lecture actually, that you have learned the box model. Understanding margin, padding, borders, and how different display types work will help you in every layout you create. Tomorrow we are diving into modern layout systems, Flexbox and CSS Grid. These are the tools professional developers use to create complex, responsive layouts easily. Practice with today's assignment and experiment with different spacing and positioning. The more you play with these concepts, the more intuitive they will become. Submit your card layout by 7 p.m. tomorrow, and I'm excited to see what you create. See you tomorrow for day 6. Goodbye and happy coding.